Hello and welcome back to the F2 show. We were predicting a chaotic weekend and Jeddah delivered yet again with another exciting weekend of action. I'm your host Fraser Ford, and joining me to discuss all of the action from this weekend, we have Formula 3 lead commentator Harry Benjamin, Inside F2 editor LA Wilshaw, and Inside F2 writer Lawrence Griffin. Coming up on the show, we delve into an exciting weekend of action in Jeddah. We have a new and perhaps somewhat surprising championship leader. We discuss the driver and team standings. And we answer your questions off the back of this weekend. Right, Harry, great to have you with us. Let's jump straight into it. I'm not sure if you were watching the Formula 3 last weekend, but there was some awfully dodgy commentating. Do you know who that was?
Nah, I don't watch it, mate. It's boring. Why would you bother? I was indeed, of course, watching the Formula 3 last weekend. A shame it doesn't go to Saudi Arabia, but I think that would have been an absolute nightmare. 30 cars round the Saudi Arabian track might have been asking for trouble where it was absolutely not necessary. So a shame we didn't get any F3 action last weekend now. But yeah, no, it got off to a good start in Bahrain. So really pleased to be on for it. And then it's back for Imola round 2. So there's a little bit of a wait till the next one, but first time going to Imola as well. So that'll be a fun one to experience.
Lovely. We are, of course, joking. You did a cracking job. And yeah, I'm sure everyone will agree. Are you heading out to Imola? Are you going out there or?
No. To ruin the illusion, I don't go to any of the races at the moment, sadly. I do it from a lovely studio or a janitor's closet, whichever one you want to reference it to, in Biggin Hill. So it's a nice commentary booth, and it's quite handy being UK based. It's quite nice in a way, but also, I've never been to a track to do a commentary ever. So, not certainly working for Formula One. So, which is bizarre. And I don't really like it, to be honest. I'd much rather be there because I'm as sure as you all know, and as LA knows as well, being out at the last couple of races, you just get so much, those little nuggets of information just from being there, from talking to the drivers, from talking to personnel that just feed your, not necessarily commentary, but just feed your whole understanding of what's going on. So I'm hoping that will soon sort of get back to normal eventually, but there's lots of pros that come from being based in the UK as well. But no Imola, unfortunately, not yet, unless something changes.
Good stuff. It'll be fun regardless, won't it? And LA, obviously, out in Bahrain last weekend. It was last weekend, wasn't it? How was that? And how have you enjoyed the start of the season?
Yeah, it was really great. I was out there for testing, first of all, and then was out there for the race as well. As I was out in Abu Dhabi last year for the testing too. So, Harry's absolutely right. It is a very different experience being at the circuit, but I think it also depends on where you are at the circuit too. I was on a nice balcony with a view of one of the straights, and then had obviously a view of the screens where you could see one with the on-track action, one with the positioning of the drivers. And it was the first time I've ever watched a live race with the cars going past me and being able to translate that either way to the screen and from the screen to the track, to then think, right, okay, so they've overtaken them. So when they come back round, and sometimes you're counting the cars, who's in P8, who's in P9, it's just translating perfectly. It's just such a different experience. But I think regarding commentating, I'm not sure that they always have a view of the track anyway, even though I think on most occasions they do, definitely for F1 anyway. I think that, they always go on about the window and having a look out the window and whatever. So I think obviously that does help as well. But yeah, I mean, Bahrain was wonderful, and what wonderful people, wonderful country, and fabulous to be in the paddock, as Harry said again, chatting, just it's exactly right what he said. It's not like you're learning sort of great amounts of amazing knowledge, but you're just picking bits up here and there, and you're getting to know the personalities of the people, and especially the drivers. Most times you see them with the helmets on, especially the ones that don't necessarily always finish in the top 3 that you don't get to chat to and see in the press conferences. So it's really just great just to see how it all operates, how it happens, what they do between sessions, what are they doing, hanging around, doing fitness, doing debriefs. It's just all amazing to be there, really is, Fraser.
behind the scenes insight. Love that. And Lawrence, obviously, Jeddah, another exciting weekend, wasn't it?
Yeah, it really was. And I think we were expecting it. What we were also expecting was a lot of red flags, which fortunately in the feature race we didn't have. I think that was one of the aspects that most surprised me and that I most enjoyed, that we got to see a proper full F2 race, green most of the way through, apart from a couple of incidents, and no one seriously injured, because that can be a dangerous track. So it was just brilliant to see action that wasn't controversial and in which nobody got hurt.
I almost couldn't believe it. A whole race in Jeddah without a red flag in Formula 2. It's unbelievable, isn't it? So I wishing our best to Chembolic Bassi as well after that crash in practice. Obviously, meant that he missed the weekend, so wishing him all the best. Let's take a look at the championship standings then. Felipe Drugovich jumps to the top of the standings after a brilliant weekend. He's closely followed by Liam Lawson. Another strong weekend for Richard Verschoor means that he sits third in the standings for Trident. Yuri Vips, Teo Pourchaire and Jehan Daruvalo round out the top 6. And the team standings, High-Tech moved to the top of the team standings with a 5-point cushion going into Imola. Carlin and MP Motorsport are level on 43 points after the 2 rounds we've had so far. And Trident, Prema and ART round out the top 6. All right, let's talk about our new championship leader then, Felipe Drugovich. Somewhat of a surprise championship leader, perhaps. But pole position, podium, victory, championship leader. I mean, he couldn't really ask for a better weekend, really, could he, Harry?
No, not at all. And I really like Felipe. I think he really deserves like some good results and good headlines too. And we've always said in junior categories, especially in Formula 2, and especially so last year when we had the 3-race format, consistency is key. But regardless of what you do with the format, the more consistent you are, you're always going to put yourself in the best possible position. And he's done that the most out of all the drivers so far. Nearly a 10-point lead already and scoring in every single race and 2 podiums, 1 win, and not just a win in a sprint race either, a win when it mattered, a win when the big points are up for grabs too, and a dominant win around a difficult track. So absolutely can take nothing away from Felipe. And it... Considering someone might prove me wrong on this, I don't think he got a win last year. Certainly not a feature win, perhaps. So to start off the year so strongly and to be making that return to MP Motorsport as well, it just seems like he's in a really good place at the moment with his team. He understands the car, he understands the people, and that's all you want, really, isn't it? And they're giving him the best possible chance to go for this championship. He's not backed by a Formula One team. He's not in any academy. It's going to be a really difficult task, to make that step up and put himself in the shop window for Formula One. I'm absolutely not discounting that could ever happen. But what Formula 2 also puts you on a platform for is for a career in any kind of top elite level of racing, whether that's sports cars, touring cars, endurance, so he's putting himself in a really great shop window so early on in the season. But it's a very long season, so anything can happen. But Felipe Drugovich absolutely off to a blinder of a start.
Yeah, Felipe Drugovich and MP just works, don't they? They just go together like bread and butter. It just works. Is he a serious title contender, Harry? Do you think that this is he can keep this up for the rest of the season, or do you think it might be quite difficult when it's the longest season in Formula 2, isn't it? We've ever seen 14 rounds. Liam Lawson, Teo Pourchaire, they're going to be putting the pressure on, aren't they? Do you think he can sustain a title challenge?
Yeah, it's so difficult to gauge so early on in this season. And I've asked that question to people already about Formula One, and it's only 2 races in. You go, well, like anything, it's 23 race season, well, in F1 at least. So, how could you possibly? Things can be switched on their head in an instance. I suppose where Felipe needs to focus this year if he wants to put himself in that championship challenge is that consistency. Because looking at his previous results in the last 2 years, remember, it's his 3rd year in Formula 2 now, so he's really got to make it work. He goes through really strong spells of points, but then he'll have a run of nothing, and he's got to not do that this year. He's got to get out of that sort of run of nothing, even if it's only 3 or 4 rounds. Last year, that was so costly because that's basically 2 whole weekends written off. And lots of points. That's 6 races almost what it was last year. So I would be tentative to place him in championship challenging all the way through. But hey, look, if he carries on the way he's doing, absolutely he is. 45 points, first in the championship lead, 5th, 6th, 3rd, 1st. Those are great numbers to have so early on. But new tracks coming up for him as well, Imola, and I don't know. I haven't got an answer for that, really. I'm beating around the bush so much, but I would like him to be in the title fight for sure. Whether that is the case, who knows? Because you've got unlikely people who we found, right at the back. Théo Pourchaire had a poor weekend. He's only got 25 points to his name at the moment, so you'd expect him to be really challenging for the title. But at the moment, he's got a mountain to climb.
Yeah, strong start to the season for Drugovich. Let's see if he can keep it up. And he was voted your driver of the round on social media as well, on Twitter and on Instagram. So deserved winner of that. Another brilliant weekend for Richard Verschoor, LA. How strong are Trident looking this season as well, by the way? They're looking amazing, aren't they?
Yeah, they're looking fantastic, to be perfectly honest. I mean, not forgetting that they were F3 champions, so they do know what they're doing, this team, but not necessarily as successful in Formula 2. If I've got my facts correct, they're equaling, I think, their best result in the current Formula 2 with 37 points at the moment, which, hopefully they'll get some more and they'll beat that. It can only get better. But with Richard, it's no accident. Maybe not so much in recent times, but if you look at his record, he's got a lot of P1s by his name, when he was a little bit younger in other categories. And this particular weekend, he qualified in second. Sprint race, he was 5th? And then he popped it into P2 for the feature race. And of course, he won the very first race of the season in Bahrain with the sprint race. So, there was a lot of accidents, incidents, there's red flags, there's all this going on. And he didn't happen upon these places accidentally, just by default. He's put his car up there. The Trident team have put the car up there and they're getting the results. Perfect start to the season.
Yeah, really, really strong start to the season for Trident and for Richard Verschoor. Good for them. Liam Lawson, our sprint race winner. Lawrence, great drive from him in the sprint race. But yeah, I think, he'll be a bit disappointed not to be leading the championship off the back of this weekend, won't he?
Maybe. I don't think leading the championship matters that much to him at this stage of the season. All the drivers, when they've spoken after Bahrain and after Jeddah, have been quite non-committal in predicting the rest of their seasons. Obviously very conscious that it is a long season this year. But I think he'll be gutted to have missed out in the manner that he did, knowing that he had such strong pace. And we saw that this wasn't a sprint race win in which he started on pole, led away whilst chaos ensued behind. He managed to come through the field, take advantage of misfortune for Dennis Hauger, and got a really strong result and was looking dangerous in the feature race. And he would have loved to capitalise on that pace that he had in the Carlin. He was third, and that incident was really unfortunate. It was an unforced error. It has to go down as I think it was the front left tyre just as the gun went on. It wasn't clearly tightening the wheel. The mechanic reaches for the other gun and the car gets released and that wheel is loose and that's the race over. It's amazing how quickly your fortunes can turn in this sport. So I think that is particularly cruel for Liam Lawson and mentally must be so difficult to process, to have to go straight from that into post-race interviews, into race debriefs with your team. I think that would be really tough for him. Maybe the only slight consolation is that he has not been the only one that's been unfortunate so far this season. You could place 3 of the key contenders for this title: Vips, Pourchaire, and himself. Vips, of course, had misfortune in the pits in the feature race in Bahrain, and Pourchaire has had a really difficult time, mechanical failure in the first sprint race in Bahrain, and then again on 2 occasions this weekend, and that ruled him out of the feature race yesterday. So I think he'll be looking ahead to the rest of the season. He knows that he has the pace in that car, and the setup with Carlin is working. So it's just a case of how he can make that up, because Drogovic, Pourchaire, all these drivers around him will be striving to achieve those same results. You want to do as much as you can.
Yeah, it's wide open this season, isn't it? And that's why we love Formula 2. You just don't know what's going to happen next. Liam Lawson, obviously, was on for 4 podiums out of 4, so such a shame. At Zoe Does F1 on Instagram asks, how do you think the disruption in momentum will disrupt Liam Lawson's title challenge, or do you not think it'll disrupt it at all? Do you think he'll bounce back in Imola and get over it straight away?
I think he'll bounce back. He's got a fair few weeks until Imola. They've got testing in Barcelona. He'll get back in that car, and he'll presumably have the same good feeling in the car that he's had so far this season. And I think he'll have the self-belief to go to Imola and take a big result. And I think he'll have the resilience to just put that behind him. And he'll prepare, and the race in him will come out in Imola. And if he gets a good result there, then he won't even remember what happened this weekend.
Formula 2 moves on so quickly, doesn't it? So, Harry Jehan Daruvula, how will he assess his weekend? I mean, it was an unbelievable driving a feature race, wasn't it? I mean, driving, 14th all the way up to 3rd, but the fact that he was in 14th in the first place probably be a little bit disappointing, won't it?
Oh, my man Jehan. He is... he's another one where, third year in F2, part of that Red Bull Driver Academy, the pressure. Oh, I wouldn't want to be Jehan with that pressure on you right now. He has got to be going for the title. Otherwise, I just find the way Helmut Marko and Red Bull have cast aside drivers in years gone by, I can't see what the positive outcome for Jehan will be if he doesn't get his championship up and running. A second and a third, but the second was in the sprint race, so you don't get the full points for it. But, it's not been an awful start for Jehan, and he proved that he's a good racer. And I think it was it Saudi last year as well, where he won on the road, but was given a 10-second penalty, which was just so unlucky. And I felt a little bit unjust as well at the time. I don't think he deserved that, but he hasn't had the luck on his side. But it was a good weekend in terms of he knows he can do it. So hopefully it gave him confidence that he is fast enough. He has got the race pace. Then the question comes from, well, what's happened to Prema this year? Why aren't they dominating? They seem to have been dominating for the last couple of years. What's going on? Is it a case of they've fallen back? I find that hard to believe with their resources. Or is it a case that the others have just been able to catch up and Prema haven't made as much of a progression? And we've got a bit of a tighter field and a jumbled up, standings at the moment. Some great results from the likes of, Ayumu Iwasa, who could have achieved much more. But, again, quali and bad luck and mistakes on his side. Ralph Boschung, that's a word for Ralph. He could have got a lot more out of Saudi Arabia, I think, too. But 2 4th places to open his campaign in Bahrain. An absolute stonking drive. So for Jehan, with that support from Red Bull, I think he just needs to get his head down and just drive the wheels off that car as he did on race day in Saudi, and hope that he can really string for a challenge. But look, second race, he's tied at the moment with Théo Pourchaire, who is equally should be a championship contender as well. He needs to finish. I've said this before when I think I've come on this podcast. Jehan needs to finish ahead of the other Red Bull Academy drivers, particularly Liam Lawson. Otherwise, I don't. That move to Formula One, which he's hoping for, might not be on the cards.
Yeah, and as you say, with Helmut Marko breathing down your neck, you kind of want to string a few results together, don't you? So good luck to him. LA, another strong weekend for Jake Hughes and for Van Amersfoort Racing. I mean, what a story this is kind of turning into. The new team. It's such a shame as well, wasn't it? They're, disqualified from the podium finish. What did you make of his weekend and VAR's weekend?
I kind of feel like I want to say it's just crazy. It's a crazy story, and it feels crazy, because we all know that Van Amersfoort do have a very good record, in other series and other categories, but obviously they're new to F2 this season. Not knowing anything about it, they worked incredibly hard last year to produce this Formula 2 car, and Jake is really very confident in this car, and I feel that they've picked a very good driver in Jake. We've never really been able to see his true potential, to be fair, not in Formula 2, because he's just sort of picked and thrown in every now and again, wasn't he, for a couple of seasons, and it looked really sad for him at one point. I remember interviewing him last year when he didn't have, apart from Formula E as reserve driver, he had nowhere to go, and it felt sort of like it was going to be one of those stories where there are good drivers in these series and in these feeder series, and so many fall by the wayside. And I do think that that's what's quite heartbreaking about this sport, that so many just never get that chance and that opportunity. But to me, it kind of feels like the universe really wants Jake Hughes to be a Formula 2 driver. It's just keep throwing him in, get him in somehow. This guy is going to race these cars. And this VAR car just looks great, doesn't it? I mean, I know it's not been perfect, and I know that starting on the line they're getting bogged down a bit. They've got a bit of work to do, but he's qualifying pretty handy places. He's up there, and gutting. I don't know what other word to use than disqualification, but as we've seen this weekend, there's been a few all around. There's been a lot of incidents and accidents and all sorts of horrible situations, including the pit lane stuff, that you've already talked about. So the Jake is doing amazing with this car. He really is doing amazing. The team are doing a fantastic job. I know that they know they can finish higher. I know they can get better results, and they're going to get it. There's no question. And wouldn't it just be a magical story for them to be teams champion, or Jake to be drivers champion at the end of this season? What a fairy tale that could be.
It really would be, wouldn't it? Yeah, great start to the season for him. Lawrence, there was a little bit of confusion in the sprint race. Obviously, Dennis Hauger coming into the pits when, race control closed the pit lane, then they opened it, and I don't think he quite knew what was going on. I don't think we knew what was going on. At Milo Collins 54 on Twitter asked, did race control mess up a little bit with the pit lane confusion that ruined Hauger's race? And what can be done in the future to prevent that from happening again?
I think there's definitely an argument to say that the race control messed up there. It was the most bizarre incident, wasn't it? It seemed on the live broadcast that the message from race control to go through the pit lane and the message that the pit lane was closed actually were released during the same minute. So you can understand why there's been some visible confusion for Hauger and for his team. And clearly he's been told at some stage that he has to go through the pits, and for whatever reason, that message that you have to stay out hasn't got through to him. That being said, Hauger does have to take some responsibility for that mistake, because above all else, you have to follow the flags and the signs that are there on the circuit. They are more reliable than any radio communication you might be getting from the team. You have to follow double-waved yellows. All these sorts of things can indicate imminent danger far before any radio message. Obviously, he's got a lot going on. He doesn't have a good view out of the cockpit. But it was in another unforced error and a very costly one at that. And then, of course, getting the stop and go penalty as well, just adding insult to injury. He's not had the ideal start to the season. So much was expected of him at the start, and at the end of the day, he is a rookie, and we should allow him some time to adjust to Formula 2. When finally he gets this opportunity to score some good points, this happens to him. We say it again. Look how quickly your fortunes can change in Formula 2. So he'll be really gutted with that.
Was the penalty a bit harsh, Harry? I mean, he's already at the back. Come on, to give him a penalty on top of that is what do you think?
Yeah, it was at first when I watched the first replay, I didn't see the lighting panel with the cross in it, so I was like, I was very much on fighting Hauger's side there. I was like, why on earth have they done that? They must have put it up just as he literally turned left. But then I had a little rewatch of it, and yeah, it is pretty obvious that the pit lane was closed with that big red X. And then to be given a penalty on top of that, it's just, it was all the things that could possibly go wrong did go wrong. The team were told pit lane fine, but then if Hauger saw the flag, so clearly the communication wasn't quite there. But then again, you're tight on time, so how good can the communication really be when you're literally talking about, as Lawrence said, those messages were given out in the same minute, so 30 seconds apart, should we say? Like, Jesus, and I feel like the additional penalty was a little bit unnecessary and just compounded what was already a bit of a disaster. And I don't know whether Race Control felt that they just had to make an example of that. As we've seen, Race Control and Race Direction very much being quite harsh and just straightforward, I suppose, in their penalties. But this one was, out of everything that occurred over the weekend, was a little bit dodge, for lack of a more sophisticated phrase. So yeah, felt really sorry for him, but it is what it is. He'll bounce back.
Yeah, tough start to the season for Dennis Hauger, but as you say, he's a great driver and he will bounce back. Great weekend of action in Jeddah, wasn't it? All right, let's move away from Formula 2. We don't do this very often, but we'll move away from Formula 2 on the F2 show because, Harry, we're going to come to you. It's the Motormouth Charity Karting Day coming up this Thursday. Tell us a little bit more about it.
Oh, how exciting. Yes, it is the Motormouth Charity Karting event. For those who don't know, one of my other jobs is co-hosting another podcast. We're not a rival, don't worry. It's called the Motormouth Podcast, and we interview lots of interesting people from the world of motorsport, whether they're drivers or behind the scenes, managers. They've usually got a really cool story to tell. It's usually about their life story in motorsport. And we put on a karting day last year at Wilton Mill, which is not too far away from Silverstone in the UK, all to raise money for the Brain Tumor Charity. And it was about, I think, 20 or so public entry teams who pay to be there, and that goes to charity. And then we get they each get a celebrity from the world of motorsport, be that an influencer, a broadcaster, or an actual professional racing driver, to help them navigate a 2.5-hour endurance race. And I believe the Inside F2 team were there last year as well. I can't remember where you finished, but I'm not sure it was on the podium.
13th. So we finished 13th.
13th. That's not too shabby, actually, considering how many people were on. That's not too shabby. So, I think there were worse teams there. So it's a really fun day out. All the teams are fully booked now because it's only a few days away. But everyone, punters are welcome to turn up on the day and watch, and there's a bar and food and drink as well that's on offer. And I think it was a really fun day last year. And this year we're raising money once again for the Brain Tumor Charity, but also for Movember as well. So yeah, so it should be hopefully a really nice day. It would be remiss of me actually to not mention Tim Sylvie, who is literally the backbone of Motormouth, and who without it would not be happening, simple as. So he really pulls out all the stops. So we've got a great list of celebrities coming, including Formula 2 driver Liam Lawson shall be there. We've got a Formula 3 driver, Kush Miney, is going to be coming as well, amongst many a broadcaster, a YouTuber, an influencer. There'll be somebody there, So yeah, do come along if you're around. It's on Thursday, the 31st of March, from about midday in Wilton Mill.
Come along. It's a brilliant day. Harry, just how can people donate if they want to donate? And how can people follow on the day if they can't make it, but they want to keep up to date with the action?
Those are good questions that I should have already covered off. So the whole thing will be live streamed through the Motormouth YouTube channel if you want to go over there and click that old subscribe button. But you'll see it all there live streamed. Also, the ways to donate, if you go to the Motormouth socials, just at Motormouth _ on Twitter, and then at Motormouth _ official, I think, on Instagram. There are links there which take you to, we have either direct links where you can just donate some money, or we also have a auction site as well. which I will try and find a bit more details for as I talk. But it's basically loads of amazing kind of like motorsport prizes. But you could even win like a dinner party for 10 people. I think that's all catered for. But and you can basically bid for however much you want to put on that, which is great. And that's in the Motormouth bio on Instagram as well. And the charity auction site, you can use the hashtag #MMRace as well. It's all being hosted through Emma Live, emma-live.com. So that's where you can find the charity donations, or just head to motormouthkartrace.com and all the details are there. But you could even win lunch with Mr. Lamborghini. I say win, you can place a bid, and then if you get the highest one, you might be able to win. Right now, there's a minimum bid on that for £1,495. So Jesus. So So and of course, it all goes to charity, so it's all going to a great place. So loads of stuff. So have a look on there if there's anything you like to. But yeah, motormouthkartrace.com, which will have literally everything, all the ways to donate to both charities, either or. So yeah, a good day out, hopefully, and lots of money raised.
Absolutely, and then we'll get producer James to put the links in the bio as well. So if you're watching right now, hopefully you can look down there, and it's in the bio or in the comments or wherever you are watching from. But yeah,
thanks,
brilliant day. Thanks, producer James. Absolutely. Okay, that's all we have time for today. My thanks to Harry, to LA, and to Lawrence for joining me on today's show. And thank you to you guys at home for watching as well. If you've enjoyed the show, make sure you give it a like. Subscribe. Please subscribe. Don't just watch the show. Subscribe. Press the button, subscribe, all right? And hashtag the F2 show to get involved in the conversation as well. But from me, Fraser Ford, and all of us here at Inside F2, we'll see you next time.